Happy Thursday. Patrick and I have been sleeping on this Pelican teams all season, but today we're going to break them down and see if they deserve a little bit more respect. Let's get into foul trouble.
Welcome. How's it going? James?
I think the Pelicans have broken my brain. I'm tired.
Yeah, I just
getting a lot of sleep last night, cracking some Zion, tape.
Zion, BI. There's like they have so many good players, and like there's so many things about the Pelicans that make sense, but there's an equally like large amount of things that just make no sense at all about the Pelicans.
Yeah, I was thinking too, like my final thought before going to bed last night, I was like, wow, Zion's on pace to break his games played in a season. This was like the most hyped up guy. I feel like when he was in the draft, it was even more hyped up than Wemby, to be honest. And like, it just feels like, wow, he's about to play his career high in games. And like, no, they're the 5th seed. This is their 4th year in a row where they've gotten a better record than the previous year, or at least they're on pace to in a couple games. And like, no one seems to care. It's kind of, I don't know. We've been very dismissive of this team all year too, so I don't want to act like we're not a part of that. But yeah, they're a weird team.
Yeah, they're sitting at 39-26 right now, which is good for 5th in the West. They are a game ahead of the Kings and Suns, and they're a game and a half ahead of the Mavericks, and then they're 2.5 games behind the Clippers. So like right in the thick of things. I think there's like a very low chance that they could put themselves in position for one series where they have home court advantage. I feel like that's probably not going to happen. We'll get into that as we go along.
I think they're pretty much locked into the 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Unless like there's like a catastrophic stretch of basketball coming up for them, they're pretty much locked into the 5 or 6. So the story of the Pelicans is weird because they're 12-11 on December 7th. They upset the Timberwolves, and then they go on to beat the league's like 3 worst teams. And about a month later, they're 23-15, and then they've kind of just held on from 23-15.
Yeah, I mean, and they've just really they have beat like everyone that they're supposed to beat. And against teams that are below 500 this year, they are 19-9, so they're taking care of business. Like that's exactly what you want to see from a team like this. And then against teams that are above 500 and above, they're 20-17. So like that's a really great
that's really
place
good
to be. The weird thing about the Pelicans is they're very feast or famine. We were talking about, it's kind of the first thing that we started talking about this morning when we just like were talking about what we saw was in games that the Pelicans have been in that are decided by 10 points or more, they are 26-14. 26 is the second most 10-point or more wins, or tied for the second most in the entire league behind only the Celtics, which we've talked all about how the Celtics are just this like absolute regular season juggernaut, the likes of which we barely ever see. And then...
But there's also those 14 losses.
14 is also it's not the most, but of like...
Good teams.
Good teams, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it's interesting. In one-score games, so games decided by 3 or less, they're 1-6. And the one win is the Spurs. In games that are decided by 4 or 5 points, so maybe a game that was a one-score game and then free throw shenanigans happened, they're 3-2. So in 5 points or less games, they're 4-8, which is like... It's weird, we were talking about this. You go on their basketball reference page, and if those of you who don't look at those pages, basically it'll display a team's schedule, but it'll display the wins as green bars, the reds as red bars, depending on the margin of defeat or victory. And like every bar is super tall. This team plays very few close games. It's really strange.
So why do you think it's like this?
So I think part of it is they have a lot of guys who are a little trigger happy, like Trey Jones in the Rockets game I was studying. There's just a lot of possessions not Trey Jones, Murphy, sorry. Trey Murphy is like, if he's got like a single foot of airspace, he's willing to launch it. CJ McCollum is very much a hot hand chasing type player. And I think players like that, it's very binary. You either make a shot or you miss a shot, especially when you're shooting early in the shot clock. And I think like when you're hitting, that can help, when you're hitting and you're giving Zion and Valanciunas even more space, that can help. And when you're, chucking early on and the other team's getting boards and they're going in transition, that can hurt a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a make or miss thing.
Because I think the other thing too, and we'll talk about this, is they don't really have a real point guard.
Yeah.
Like CJ McCollum, he's great. Like he's playing a lot better this year than last year. Last year we talked about like the decline of CJ. It was one of the things you and I were worried about with them this season. But like there's a lot of possessions, man, where it's like if CJ made a shot on the previous possession, like he is going to go for like a double cross into a mid-range pull-up early in the shot clock. Like there's just not a lot of like offensive cohesion when they're not playing through Zion, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect place to talk about Zion. So like Zion, I think he's gotten, especially earlier in the season, he got a little flack of, I think it really all stemmed from that in-season tournament, just like dismantling by the Lakers.
Yeah.
Zion got a lot of flack of just not being assertive, not being aggressive, and recently, he really has turned the tides. I think he's looked more like the guy that we've come to know in the brief glimpses that we've seen of Zion. I think the most exciting thing about Zion this year is he's got the best turnover percentage of his career, which he has super, super high usage. So I think that's like something that's
also
very noteworthy.
His assists are trending up over the course of the season. So he's already averaging a career high 5.3 assists per game, but that's like those numbers are actually still going up and up and up. He's getting a lot of 7, 8 assist games. And like he makes a lot of really impressive passes. Like this is what I loved about him as a prospect was like the unselfishness despite how dominant he is like he has a lot of nice passes too that are, I don't want to say Jokic-esque, but like rising up over like 2 defenders. And, you know, he's not that tall, but he uses his insane vertical ability to like feather passes, like dump down passes. It's not just like drive and kickouts. It's also like drive and setting up someone else under the basket, which I think is like kind of some next level like passing from a player of his, you know, archetype.
Absolutely. Like cleaning the glass bills him as a big, which is like
true.
How do you like bill Zion as anything? But like amongst bigs, he has the 6th best assist percentage in the entire league, and that includes a lot of really, really great passers. This is the modern NBA. So Zion is like showing the stripes of a guy that would really succeed in the playoffs, I think. A superstar that you can give the ball. He can create. Obviously, he can create for himself. He can get to the rim at will. He can create for others somewhat. And then the other side of that is their other star, Brandon Ingram. I know you have your issues with Brandon Ingram.
I want to stay on Zion for a little bit, though.
Yeah.
So I love Zion the player. I kind of feel the other way though about it because I think he's clearly not the same athlete. I think like one of the defining Zion shots is the like I'm gonna force up something near the rim. They're playing decent defense, so I'm kind of like 5-6 feet out, but I still get it to go. And percentage-wise, he's actually shooting kind of similar, but like it doesn't look the same. It doesn't feel as effective. And the big number that I think is really indicative of like where the athleticism's gone is the offensive rebounding rate is at a career low 1.9%. Like in previous years, this is a guy who's at like 4%, 6%, 3%. So to get down to nearly 2%, that's a huge drop off. And like a big part of Zion's paint dominance was that second bounce offensive rebound, right? And I think like even though he wasn't always converting those at 100%, like not being able to get the rebound all the time is kind of tough. Now, sometimes he's opening it up for Valanciunas to get the rebound, who's a great rebounder too. But at the same time, I think one thing Zion's done really well, and I don't know if it's like a schematic thing, is it feels like he's gotten way better at cutting. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm kind of like, I feel like this team really has another gear to get to if they could get a real point guard, because there's some plays where like Marshall will drive in, like one of their backup guys, and Zion just makes these great cuts where he wraps around from the baseline to like behind the driver into the middle of the paint, and it's just like he's getting really good at getting his timing on that. It kind of feels like we're in year 4 now of like halfway through the season, the Pelicans are like, what if we gave the ball to Zion in space? And it's like, you know, that worked at the end of last season. Do you want to start this season doing that? And they're like, nah, we won't do that. But like that weird, like wicked crossover Zion has is still like super effective in space, even when guys play off of him. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think Zion as a 1A superstar, I just don't know what the way athleticism has been tapped has ever happened, but I like seeing these signs of like, you're starting to do the little things on offense way better than you ever have before.
Totally. Well, and the fact of the matter is like, you look at the teams in the Western Conference, like other than Denver, who has Aaron Gordon, which is kind of like that guy's built in a lab to be kind of a Zion stopper, nobody has a guy to throw on him, really. Like you go down the list and you're like, who does the Thunder have to throw at Zion? Like they have a couple.
It's just J-Dub throwing up a prayer.
Candidates.
Yeah.
Like they're like strong guys. Like you can throw J-Dub. I think Dort is strong enough to like get a few good possessions, but I'm not feeling great about like having Dort have to deal with Zion for the whole time. Timberwolves, like you've got size and length, but like in a healthy version of the Timberwolves, you've got Cat dealing with the bowling ball of Zion all the way through. Clippers, I mean, I guess you got Kawhi, but like, do you want to task Kawhi with that the entire playoffs? Kings don't really have anyone. Suns don't really have anyone. Mavs don't really have anyone. I guess PJ Washington is like okay, hypothetically. So it's like that is just one mismatch that you know right off the top you have for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I guess my worry with Zion, and this is another one, his rim attempts are down to 71% of his shots. They've been going down every year since his rookie year, and his rookie year he was taking like 90% of his shots at the rim. So he's up to 27% of his shots at the mid-range, where it's like, I don't know if a Zion mid-range is that much better than a Zion three-pointer in terms of probability of going in. Like, I would like to see him cut that down. And if it's not going to be rim attempts, get it to 3 attempts. There's just a lot of possessions that work in the regular season where, like, they'll run an action where it's like a guy hands it off to Zion. Maybe Zion runs some sort of weird pick and roll with Valanciunas. Valanciunas bowling balls. He's also a bowling ball. Gets down into the lane for offensive rebounding position. So the help defender's like, can I really help on Zion? Valanciunas is just either going to get the dump down pass or the offensive rebound. And it's like it works, but it never looks good. It always looks incredibly clunky. And I think that's where I'm kind of like, what is that going to look like against a Minnesota Timberwolves, a team they're 2-2 against in the regular season? But like,
you know what this conversation kind of reminds me of is like early superstar Giannis. Like conversations going into the playoffs where like Giannis hadn't really like established all of the counters that he has now. And obviously Giannis is like a different level of like dominant than Zion. So it's like, and there was a very easy book on stopping a younger Giannis. And that was just like building the wall and making it happen. And then you get to like, to succeed for Giannis, he had to have some really real shooters all around him. And this gets to something that I really don't love about the Pelicans roster construction. The Pelicans have every like piece that hypothetically you would want in like in their wing depth. I love the idea of their wing depth having like Brandon Ingram can like he's
your
still
ISO scorer guy.
In the 99th percentile of just like overall shot creation. Like that dude can get a bucket. I'm a huge believer in what Brandon Ingram can do in a playoff setting. Zion, obviously, like he's a one of one kind of guy, and those guys generally serve really, really well in the playoffs. Trey Murphy has been awesome since he's returned, just like complete sniper, great on defense. Herb Jones, like,
oh my God,
he
Herb
can't
Jones
remember the last time he missed a three.
He just wreaks havoc on like the boards, the defense. He's like, it feels like his hand is in every passing lane at all times. Like he's just a menace on defense.
But here's my thing about it. I would say those guys and CJ are their 5 best players. They can't play together.
Well, see,
you can't. They just don't have any lineups with every single one of them really on the court. They've had 161 possessions with those 4 guys on the court. And part of that is Trey Murphy, how he was recovering from the meniscus surgery. But like, there's just not enough like true ball handling there.
So this is the weird thing with their lineups. So they have one lineup that has like 800 possessions. It's their most played lineup. And it's CJ, Ingram, Herb Jones, Zion, and Valanciunas. And it's negative 1.3. It's their most played lineup. It's a negative lineup. Here's where it gets weird. They have no other lineup the entire season that has played over 250 possessions. But then in their next like 5 lineups, they have 2 lineups that are in like the high 100 possessions, like 180. So the sample size it's decent, but it's like a little too small, especially given like how crazy the numbers are. But they have these two lineups that are basically CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, and then either Valanciunas or Nance. So red flag one, Zion isn't a part of these killer lineups. But these lineups are basically like 95 defensive rating, which would be far and away the best, defense in the NBA. And they're in like the 120 offensive rating, which would be like close to number one. And it's like, with a bigger sample size, I think the defense comes back to earth. But also, like, why are they really, really good with Zion off the court when Zion seems like he's playing really well? And I think it's because Zion, you kind of have to play through him to maximize him.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm so glad that we're touching on the defense now. So the Pelicans right now, net rating wise, they have the fourth best net rating in the entire NBA, which is very indicative of being a super dominant team in the NBA. They have the 8th best offensive rating and 6th best defensive rating. Their big man rotation is kind of a mess, kind of a disaster. I don't love the Larry Nance minutes at all. I think he's kind of lost a step. Jonas Valanciunas is, he's always been a little bit more of an offensive player, but his size is just like really nice to have on defense.
Because Jonas was a guy I wanted to touch on too that worries me for the playoffs. In the regular season, man, like, I don't know. I think Jonas, I guess Sengun didn't make the All-Star, but like, he might be like the second or third best non-All-Star center in the NBA, in my opinion. I think Jonas is really good. Like, but that's my worry though, is like in the regular season, you can post up Jonas against Sengun. You can't really do that against Rudy Gobert. You can't really do that against some of these other like Anthony Davis type guys. And I think that's kind of why we see this team get blown out a lot, is because, on the defensive end, like Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, even Ingram, like they're so long and they're so lengthy. I think against most NBA teams, they cause so many problems. Like Jonas Valanciunas against most NBA teams causes so many problems. You see them really struggle against a team like the Lakers because LeBron James goes, Herb Jones weighs like less than my son does. Okay, I guess I'll just barrel into him and score. Like, and I think that's really where this team struggles. Is I feel like their players are so good at like against the average NBA player, but once you get to those superstar counterparts, especially those wings where Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron, they're so strong, and I feel like that's where like this length but not weight is really hurting them.
Well, not only that, but have you looked into their opponent like field goal percentage from like different areas on the court? So really what I've found is their whole defense is predicated on, and I got to shout out Willie Green for this. This is like, I really think Willie Green is one of the better defensive coaches in the NBA, because this is the second year in a row that the Pelicans have been top 2 in opponent 3-point field goal percentage in the league, which is a really hard thing to do. And it's a little fluky, but they also allow like bottom 5 or top 5, however you want to look at it, good 3-point field goal attempts. They're not allowing very many. So they're really dictating where you're getting shots. But you flip that, you look at shots under 6 feet. They are bottom 10 in the league in defensive field goal percentage for shots 6 feet and under. So they're allowing a lot of easy shots, and they're getting kind of a little bit lucky. It's a little bit game plan too, at like teams are not shooting threes. And then you look at a game like last night against the Cavs, where you've got 2 superstar guards who like at the end of the day can get whatever they want if they're really trying to do it. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell were incredible last night in a game where the Pelicans got basically blown out in the second half by like 30 points. These are things that I think, especially in the West with the guard play, like it's super schemable. Like if they're not going to run into like a Dallas or a Phoenix early on, and I don't really see them like getting deep enough to like meet a team like that. But like Luka Doncic against this team, if he wants to shoot a 3, he's going to get a shot up, and like his percentages are not going to be that affected, even if you've got a Herb Jones on him.
Exactly, because Luka's another one of those superstar wings where he's just so strong that it's nice having Herb Jones and all those guys, but like if the other team star is going to use their strength, it's tough. And I think what's tough about the rim protection, because I think Zion's gotten so much flack for it, but like Zion's only 6'6". I know his vertical is still like crazy, but like having a good vertical is like not as good as just having height and wingspan. It's just never going to be as good as being able to defend the rim without having to jump.
Yeah.
Like, and Valanciunas, like I love Valanciunas. He's one of my favorite role players. Like I think he fights really hard, but like he's okay on the defensive end. Like he's big and strong. You can't go at him. Like it's going to be nice for them that the other team's bigs can't really just, throttle him that much. But like, I think what's tough, is like
if you get him in space,
that's the thing is like the Lakers don't have to post up AD. They can give AD the ball in space. Like there's a lot of these teams have ways of attacking him. But I don't know. Do you want to talk more Pels, or I'm kind of like, what do you think about this Clippers matchup? Because it feels like that's where we're headed in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, that's a matchup that we're going to see on Friday. We've only seen them go against They've
played 3 times, but one of the games. So they've played 3 times. Everyone played in all the games. So these are meaningful games, except I want to asterisk the first one because the first one happened when the Clippers were in that like 10-game tailspin to start the Harden era. So if we're just going to remove that.
Yeah, I feel like that is like.
So effectively, they're 1-1. They're playing on the 15th. And oddly, like, I was talking about like the superstar wings, but the thing with the Clippers wings that is very different than like a Luka or a LeBron or a Shea or even like an Anthony Edwards in some cases is like, man, Kawhi and Paul George love to fall into their mid-range shot. And if like that's the shot they want to take, that plays into the Pelicans defenders where it's like Trey Jones or I keep calling him Trey Jones, Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones and even Brandon Ingram to a lesser extent. Like that just plays into their body types, like their strengths. And like I think a series where the Clippers fall a little too in love with that could maybe hurt them, but at the same time, like, do you want to completely play Harden attacks Valanciunas in the pick and roll every time if you're the Clippers? I almost feel like the Clippers are almost like, it's not that they have bad options, it's just that like, what identity do they want to roll with? Because it feels like their best strategy would be playing through Harden in this matchup, but like, I don't know. I think it's always weird when not playing through your best player isn't the optimal strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been, I think, pretty negative so far in this episode talking about the Pelicans. Specifically for a Pelicans-Clippers matchup, I might pick the Pelicans. I love the way that the Pelicans can attack the Clippers because I think they're super, super similar teams. At the end of the day, you've got 2 rather large ball handling wings. You've got a really like 2-guard point guard tweener that is like a veteran and can shoot and can manipulate your offense. You've got kind of a middle of the road center, and then you've got depth pieces floating around. And I think we'll probably get this series. And if we get this series, I think it'll be a long series and I think it'll be a close series, but it's going to be a physical series.
Yeah, I think I would probably pick the Clippers, although because I think my worry is that if the Clippers are like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run a Harden pick and roll. We're going to attack Valanciunas and Zion in space. We're going to make them, be the fulcrum. The Pelicans can kind of counter by playing like they're really big, like Murphy, Jones, Ingram lineups, which I like defensively to counter a lot of what the Clippers are going to do. I guess my worry is you already have shoddy point guard play in terms of like McCollum's a great player, a great guard. I don't love him as the table setter, and I'm worried if you take the like table setter out of the lineup to up the defense, like how clunky can this offense get?
Yeah. I don't know. I keep going back and forth because
but I do
on the other hand, you're trading, if you're the Pelicans, you are going to be trading so many 2s for 3s that the Clippers are going to, and that's like a really tough math problem to have. And we haven't even talked about like Kawhi's having back spasms now.
That's true.
In a series like that where Zion, I think, will be super engaged and like that's have to go.
That's kind of the whole fulcrum though.
Yeah.
We need to see Zion like not care. I don't think he doesn't care, but going back to that criticism he got it for the in-season tournament. It's just like
That was tough.
But at the same time,
that was tough. It
I'm
was
kind of
one
with
game.
you. It's also like, man, Anthony Davis is fucking good. Like, if Anthony Davis busts your ass, like that fucking happens.
Yeah, and that's like a much worse matchup.
Yeah,
for
way worse
the
for
Clippers.
him. Yeah.
Like it's, I think this is a very like just streamlined. Like you can go through it and you pretty much know who's gonna match up against each other. Like I also like the Valanciunas. Like that's a series where Valanciunas will be able to play real minutes, and I think he can be very additive on the offensive end and not too destructive defensively.
Yeah, I feel like Valanciunas for Zubac is just like two battering rams slamming into each other.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
No, I don't want to seem too pessimistic because I think they have a lot of answers to a lot of what the Clippers do. I just think a lot of their answers come with some drawbacks. Whereas I feel like the Clippers can always kind of play in this like their starting lineup should be pretty solid throughout the series.
It kind of comes down to Harden.
Yeah, I feel like it really does kind of come down. It comes down to Harden, but it also does come down to what does Paul George and Leonard's shot diet look like? Because like Leonard and George, like they do have a bad habit of just playing into that style. Because guess what? Kawhi Leonard makes a million mid ranges in a row. That's kind of what he does. But like, it's kind of what the Pelicans are going to want from him.
If the Pelicans in that matchup can force Paul George to not shoot like 12 threes a game, which if I'm a Clippers fan, I would want him to do more of that. Then I think you start getting into a danger zone. It's just, it's a really, really fun, like Styles makes fights matchup that, I mean, I kind of hope we get it, and I guess we'll see if we get, I don't know. The other thing about the Pelicans and why I think they've done so well is just like they're deep, you know?
Yeah, they're deep. And I think, I guess we have kind of come, I feel like all season you and I have been very down on this Pelicans team, but it's because like when I watch them, I'm just like, there's something about it. Everything looks clunky. It very rarely looks clean, but like they're young-ish. They're older than you think. So Zion's 23, Ingram's 26, Trey Murphy's 23, Herb Jones is already 25. And I feel like that's kind of like I feel like that's kind of the core four of this team is those four guys. But like I don't know, the way Ingram's aging, like his assists are up every single season, his percentages are up again. Like I think Ingram, the way he plays, like he's kind of going to age really well. Like I could see Brandon Ingram continuing to just get better and better until he's like 31 before he starts to decline. So like I feel like Ingram's
How old is Brandon Ingram?
26.
That is insane.
But like, yeah, he's good. He's getting better.
So young still.
Like again, like Ingram's another guy I feel like I'm not as high on as most, but like he's getting better. And to your point, like I do like that at the end of games, like they do have a ISO shot creator who has good height. I wish he was stronger, but that's not his game. But like, like I think that's the thing with this team is they feel oddly like a young team, but they're not a young team. But they're not a finished product either.
It's because we haven't seen them in the playoffs.
They're like this weird in-between team, but they are old enough to where we kind of know what the players are. But I don't know. That's what's weird about this team, right? Like if you told me next year they get to 54 wins, like they just win a couple more games than they do this year, like I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe Zion maybe gets a little bit more of his bounce back. Maybe like Ingram just keeps improving. Trey Murphy takes a huge step going into his age 24 season. Like I don't know. I think if you're a Pelicans fan, you should be optimistic. I think really this team.
If I was a Pelicans fan, I'd be like, we're going to the Western Conference Finals. We've got every single piece we need. Like, you can make that argument.
I just think you can't until they get a real point guard. I think once they get a real proper table setter, this team could really elevate.
I don't know.
In a way that I don't really even see yet.
I'm not too concerned with the point guard because, and I feel kind of the same like way with the Suns of just like in the playoffs, like you're going to have the ball in Zion's hands so much. You're going to have the ball in Brandon Ingram's hands so much that like of course, like you want to get Zion moving off ball. You want to get Zion cutting, getting easier baskets. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much like the distribution of usage like really changes unless that point guard is like just this awesome like defender as well and can really, really shoot. And it's like, where do we find players like that.
I think it's really more like, because like Ingram's averaging like nearly 6 assists. Zion's, averaging nearly 6 assists. Like they're playing through these two guys. McCollum's like, got it. But I just want them to cut down on the possessions where it feels like McCollum and Murphy are shooting a 3 with like 3 seconds into the shot clock. And I'm like, dude, like run a set. Like I feel like McCollum at this stage in his career should know, like, let's set the table before we eat. Like I don't know. That's the only, and I kind of have that gripe with a lot of NBA teams, but I think that's why, like, to this day, like, I still love Denver because there's almost never a Denver possession where Jamal Murray is like, fuck it, I'm going to shoot it for no goddamn reason. Like 2 seconds in the shot clock. Like, and I think that's what separates a lot of these really, really good teams, like just not taking these stupid shots.
I would almost rather have the missing piece in my mind for the Pelicans is a guy that unlocks a lineup with those 4 wings. If you can figure it, and I guess that's like a shooting, like, I guess it's Jokic is what you're missing there, which obviously those don't grow on trees, but like somebody that like can handle the ball, that can stretch the floor, but also offers rim protection, because the downfall of a lineup with Herb, Trey, Zion, and Brandon Ingram is just like, all of those guys are relatively good wing defenders, and like they're athletic and they're great in transition, but there's just no rim protection there. And if you put a Jonas Valanciunas in there, it's like there's just not enough shooting in that lineup at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas is a 35% three-point shooter. They've had a lot of games where he's kind of spaced and they've had success with that. So you kind of feel like almost like if you took like Grizzlies Marc Gasol, who's got the big-to-big passing profile in the defense, that's what really unlocks this team.
Yeah, I think so. I just like want their 4 best players on the court at the same time.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think that would definitely improve this team. They're 7th in defense. I guess for me, I really do think it is the table setting and just, evening the flow of the offense, making it a little less binary, I think for me is a big one. But yeah, I mean, I think a player like that could really help unlock, because Jonas, for everything I love about him, he's not a passing savant. He's not a Marc Gasol.
Well, and he's not like a lockdown defensive anchor either. But okay, looking forward, the Pelicans do have a pretty tough schedule for the rest of the season, and like games that I think there are kind of going to be dogfights. Like both of the teams are really, really going to need it. Of course, we have alluded to the fact that they're playing the Clippers on tomorrow night, Friday night. But then a little easy run of Portland, Brooklyn. I mean, Orlando is a good team now.
Yeah, Orlando's a good team.
But then you've got the Heat. You've got, looking forward, you've got a stretch of OKC, Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix, Orlando all in a row.
I think that Heat game will be kind of telling for like, what is this team going to look like when adversity hits? Because obviously, like, they just had that scuffle with the Heat, and Jimmy Butler was like, you guys will never beat us again. So, like, kind of want to see what they come out looking like in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of
that's kind of one of those games that's like, all right, if you're a team that we want to respect, like, show us that you really want to win that game.
Yeah.
I think that's an important one for them.
All of the probability, like, playoff predictive models give them, like, around a 50% chance to stay in that 5 seed. But I want to see it. I want to see it.
Here's the stretch, other than that Heat game, that I think really can define what their seeding looks like. March 26th begins a 5-game stretch against OKC, Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix, and Orlando. That is really fucking tough. They're all at home, though. Tough. All at home.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, if they can go 3-2, 4-1,
even 2-3
in that stretch, yeah, even 2-3. But I would. What do those 3 look like? What do those losses look like? It's not. I don't know. It's not dead set, in my opinion, that they're not going to be in the play-in. At this moment, I just can't. I can't say that.
I'm a little bit more confident that they're pretty squarely out of the play-in, but we'll see. But I will say, I kind of alluded to it earlier. This is the 4th year since the Davis trade, 4th year in a row that they've improved their win total. I think they're set up to do it again next year. So, I mean, this is a nice linear rebuild. Mm-hmm. They just got to find whatever that missing piece is.
Yeah, this is arguably the second best New Orleans basketball team in the regular season that we have ever seen, behind the 50-win Chris Paul Hornets year. So I think there's a lot to be really excited about in New Orleans. And, there is a version of the end of this season where we're going into the playoffs, and I think nobody wants to play the Pelicans. And it's just been, the structure of their schedule has been such that, like, the in-season tournament letdown kind of put this stink on them, and then they've had this really, really light, and like they hit a lot of like injured teams at the right time schedule, so that everyone is like very cautious to buy in all the way on the Pelicans. So like, I'm just really excited to see what they look like for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're just gonna be like a 48 win team. Good, really good, regular season team. I'm not quite as confident in that Clippers matchup as you are, but let's see. I mean, we've been sleeping on them all season. They've proven time and time again they are a good team, but like, I do think some of the games we've highlighted coming up are really going to like, tell us like what this team is going to be about when it comes April, May, June.
Absolutely. I think that's all we got. That's all we got on the Pels.
One side note from some of the film study I did. I watched their game against the Rockets. For some reason, my league pass didn't let me watch their Cavs game yesterday because of LA restrictions. I couldn't watch the Clipper game, which I really wanted to watch, obviously. Or not, yeah, one of the Clipper games they played. For some reason, I couldn't watch any of their super, super recent games. But, man, I just wrote side note from the Rockets game, and the only note I wrote was Amin Thompson is fucking awesome.
Hell yeah,
dude, he is just, like, some of his finishes at the rim are just absurd.
People forget how young he is. They were like the youngest people in the draft last year. I think next year.
Like, can I just give Amin Thompson Valanciunas' shooting?
Oh my God.
Like, yes. That's all I want. Like, I just want Amin Thompson to shoot like, not even like 35%. Like, let him shoot 28%. Just let him shoot a percentage 30%. That's like, if you leave him wide open, he might make it, instead of like, he assuredly will not make it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so with you. Now, we're not talking about the Pelicans anymore.
No.
Can I tell you something that I've been thinking about recently?
Yeah.
If Russell Westbrook never existed, and he never had the triple-double fiasco season, it depends on who you are, but like season that he had.
Yeah.
How would we be reacting to the Luka Doncic season that we're having right now?
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Luka has just LeBroned himself into, it's been so amazing so early that we just take it for granted. Like, the first team streak is insane to start his career.
Yeah. Just the reason why I bring it up is because.
Do you want to tell people the streak he's on?
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me.
It's like 5 or 6 consecutive 30-point triple doubles. And I think all
but
one
ended
of them
last night.
I think all but one were 35-point triple doubles.
I think all of them were 35-point triple doubles. Maybe 2 games ago. Yeah. And I will say Luka exited yesterday's game with a hamstring soreness. We have no idea what's going on. He probably is not going to play today in their back-to-back against the Thunder. But I was just thinking about it because, like, he really has no chance at the MVP this year, in my opinion. At this point, I think Jokic has just kind of like solidified it, and a big part of that is because the Mavs are just not in the like seeding range of an MVP. But that year, the Thunder weren't either. And I think right now, Luka's having almost an objectively better season than Russ did that year. And I don't know.
He's 100%. This version of Luka is so much better than 2016 Westbrook. It's not even comparable in my eyes. But like, okay, to Patrick's point, this is how. So on Tuesday, February 27th, Luka Doncic scores 45 points, goes for 14 assists and 9 rebounds. Then he begins a triple-double streak of 7 straight games where in all but 2 of the games he scores 35 points or more. And like, the shooting percentages in all these games are sky high. Like, He's unreal, man. Like, he's so fucking... in my opinion, he's the best perimeter player in the NBA. I know like, Shea's getting a lot of love, and Shea is awesome. Man. Shea is an isolation domino, but, like, the passing gap between Luka and Shea is huge.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
The versatility of the scoring. I know Shea is an amazing scorer, but, like, Luka's versatility, he has every single tool. Like... I don't know, man. I think there's kind of a gap between him and whoever's number 2 in the perimeter right now.
It's probably Shea, right?
Shea or one of these apex wings.
Perimeter guy. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just looking at the Western Conference. I'm like, Ant's like not there yet. Like, I mean, Book is amazing, but like, I think just the
passing,
the finishing is kind of like separating them, and those are really like the 2 guys that I would probably put in that conversation.
Because I think all the guys you're like, all right, well, Leonard or, but it's like, but none of those guys have the passing.
No. Yeah, and I think Shea and Book are the 2 that have like really, really amazing passing, but it's not like prime LeBron-esque level passing. I just think it's so weird that like we were so enamored with triple doubles, like, how many years ago is that? Like 9 years ago?
Yeah.
We were so enamored with them that we gave Russell Westbrook an MVP, even though he was like the 5th seed. And now like Luka is doing pretty much the same thing. It's a little bit different.
It's also weird too because the Mavericks are 38 and 28.
Yeah.
Like they're not even...
It's just a way better West.
It's just a way better West. Like, so Westbrook was MVP in 16-17? The Thunder were 47 and 35 that year. I mean, like the Mavs this year have a better like winning percentage.
It's just something I was thinking about, and I think Jokic probably, if you drop that Nuggets team in that NBA, like Jokic probably wins the MVP then as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to say, as much as I love Luka, Jokic is my MVP.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I really want Luka to win an MVP because he just deserves it. But, like, man, like, you watch that Celtics game. You watch, like, any Nuggets game. Like, Jokic is just the best player in the world.
Yeah. Hey, there's a perimeter player that I might put above Luka. Jokic on the perimeter. Yeah, he's just so sick. He's so sick. The Nuggets have really, like...
9-1 in their last 10.
They've really... woken up. They saw how everybody was acting last year when they were kind of like putting their feet up at the end of the season, and they're like, we're not doing that this year.
Yeah, I feel like they were like, these Thunder and Timberwolves will fall off, and then they just did it, and they're like, all right, fuck it, we're gonna lean forward and we're gonna just take over the league again.
Okay, so who dream Nuggets first round series?
If I'm a Nuggets fan?
No. If you're James now.
I mean, of these teams at the bottom that they could play, which would be the Suns, Mavs, Lakers, and Warriors, like, I guess the one that would be most competitive would be Phoenix. Just because they really own the Mavericks. The Mavericks have no real answer for them. And then, I don't know, the Lakers games are always good. I know people clown on the Lakers for, like, the closest sweep ever, but like legitimately every time the Lakers and Nuggets play, it comes down to the final 3 minutes.
Yeah, it does.
Like eventually the Lakers will win a close game.
Snaps, yeah.
Yeah, so I would sign up for Lakers Nuggets. I think that one would be the most fun, even if it would be short.
Yeah. I mean, I would, just thinking back to those Clippers Mavs series where I feel like those were worse Mavs teams and those were like, really, I mean, obviously worse Clippers teams, but like Kawhi was like a little bit better at the time. Those were so fun. I would love to see like Luka Doncic takes on the Nuggets and just like everything that's in that. But I don't know. I cannot tell you I want to see the Suns play the Nuggets again.
Yeah, I guess the way the West is shaping up right now, assuming the play-in standings stood as they were, so the 7-8 would be Suns and Mavs. Like, I think the first round matchup I'd be most excited to watch would be Suns Thunder. Little KD versus the Thunder in the playoffs. We haven't had that, cool. So I think that would be kind of a fun. And then I don't know.
Yeah,
Shea would give you guys so many problems, but you guys would be able to score a lot of points too. I think that could be a fun, crazy, high scoring, high stakes, fun first round series.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that would be a super fun series.
Gotta say, I don't know how excited I'd be for Timberwolves Kings as a neutral fan.
I agree with you. That's not what I want.
I just don't.
You
want
don't
that.
want that?
I mean, in terms of winning, sure.
Yeah, just in terms of entertainment value,
but not entertainment.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Kings are like an unentertaining team. They play at this like hyper electric face.
Yeah.
Like De'Aaron's awesome.
Let me push back on this a little bit. I feel like, when do we get a chance to see two teams with such contrasting styles play against each other in the playoffs?
But like, you know what I liked was 2 years ago was Timberwolves Grizzlies.
Yeah, that was
it's
fun.
like two young teams that both like were just like after 20 seconds of basketball, we're like, I fucking hate you.
It was like the birth of a new rivalry. Honestly, for
It
a
was.
second
It
there.
really felt like it.
And now it honestly one of the worst things about Ja going out, which obviously there's a lot of bad things about that, but like the Ant versus Ja narrative like doesn't really get to take off.
I know.
as
I
big.
felt like that really was gonna become like a really budding like.
Yeah.
Can we
new
talk?
age
Can we
NBA
talk about this
rivalry.
for a second? I pulled like the net rating just rankings of the last couple of years because the Pelicans had such a high net rating, but I could not help but notice last year Grizzlies 4th best net rating. 2 years ago Grizzlies 5th best net rating. Like,
Dude, it's crazy.
that's a sleeping juggernaut that is just like
The
not
West-
here this year.
the West, the 8th seed in the West is 38-28. So like the 8th seed in the West is on pace to win like high 40 wins, and we've seen West seasons like this before. Like the Suns that one year missed out with like
45 wins.
Like, is there room for the like? I'm sorry, the Memphis Grizzlies are coming, and like Warriors. I'm sorry, like it's over, Warriors. It's over. When
hey.
Memphis is back, it's over. I feel like of the 10 teams, I know they're 10th. I just don't see the pathway for them, like in the future.
The Warriors. I think the Warriors have been playing a lot better
They have been.
recently. And like, I know like we don't do 9, 10, 7-game series, but like I would choose them against the Lakers, to be honest. Like,
Oh no,
I would.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
that you're underrating the Warriors. Like, they've had just such a weird season, but I think they're figuring out a few things.
I just don't think they're good. Like they lost by 13 at home to the Spurs without Wembanyama.
Yeah,
Like,
they did.
You're bad.
Yeah, they did.
You're not a good team if you do that.
Was Steph in that game?
Stephen Curry was not, but still, the Spurs without Wembanyama are worse than the Wizards and the Pistons.
And I believe I believe Devin Vassell did not play in that game either.
That's a rough.
Who
loss.
was out there, bro?
Me and you.
But,
Me and Max could beat this Warriors team in a play-in game.
But I don't know. That is the one thing in the West playoffs that we know we're going to get is a Lakers-Warriors play-in game, and I could not be more excited for it.
Same. Taking care of your health isn't easy, but it should at least be simple. That's why for the last year, I've been drinking AG1 every single day, no exceptions. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel strong and ready to take on my day. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. AG1 has been really helpful for me because lately I've been on a lower calorie, super high protein diet and I need to still get my vitamins and minerals, and AG1 makes that really, really easy for me. I just take it every day in the morning and my whole day is just ahead of me and I feel great throughout the day. If there's one product I'd recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for so long. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/foultrouble. That's drinkag1.com/foultrouble. Check it out. All right, should we get to hot streak shooting slump?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Max, how was your week, man? I feel like we never start with you.
Okay. Interesting choice to start on me this week. I'm kind of hot slumping a little bit.
Hot slumping.
Yeah, it's like a 50-50 mix. I'll start with the bad. So my closet collapsed.
Oh, like the built-in in the closet?
Like the rack where all of the clothes hang on just fell out of the wall.
Like the rod?
Yeah, like the entire rod and like the supporting structure behind the rod just like fully fell. Like
Oh my God.
Like the wall anchors like came out of the drywall. Like I didn't even know this could happen.
Were you just like 50 hoodies? Like what was on this rack?
I want to validate you. This has happened to me before.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I got heavy clothes. I don't know, but I had too much shit on my rack, fully collapsed, and so for like about a week, I've just had a pile of clothes that I sort of can't really tell what's clean, what's dirty.
Oh, no.
It's just really it's deteriorating my mental health. But other than that, I had an insomnia night the other night. Kind of threw off my schedule. But
it's Kat's meniscus surgery. You were
yeah.
thinking about it all night.
No, yeah, it was weird. Like when he was getting his surgery, I could feel it, like phantom, like
Your knee.
meniscus.
You're like, my knee.
The sympathy pains.
But I will say I did go to that Clippers Wolves game the other night and experienced a 22-point swing to come back.
I love that for you.
It was really awesome. Just to like I was saying earlier, like starting the game off, watching it like, oh shit, we're down 22, and then ending the game off where we've cleared off the bench and I don't even recognize the players that are out there. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible.
It was awesome. So a little bit
renting in LA, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
It's always
I'm ready to get back to it, man.
You got to get back in the renters pool.
I'm trying to get back
man.
into the renters pool, man. Being a homeowner sucks. Being a renter sucks. Living in a human-made space sucks.
Yeah.
I guess I'm on a shooting slump. Again, it's
Okay.
like hot streak attitude, shooting slump reality.
Yeah.
So the kitchen saga, it's almost over. I finally placed, the order for the cabinets, but they're not going to come in for a month. So I have to wait a whole month for this kitchen. So that kind of sucks. So I good thing of the week. Last Saturday, I did this thing called the Calabasas Stairs. It's this like grueling, mega tall staircase. Went up and down 7 times because my brother's trainer was like, "Oh, I did it 7 times." I was like, "Then I'm doing that too," and I feel great. But I've started doing another like training like an NBA player video, and immediately I'm already pretty sore. God, what happened to me this week?
When's the next video dropping?
I got a video dropping today.
Let's go.
Training like Wembenyama for a week.
Let's
it was
go.
An amazing video. I'm super excited about it. Wemby's workout was pretty awesome. I've been hooping lately. I've been feeling really good on the court. So that's been, maybe I'm on a hot streak. I don't know. I feel like when I look back at my week, I'm like, I don't really think I had a great week. Like I don't really feel like I did anything crazy. I got a haircut. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just kind of had a tepid week. I might have to think on it a little bit more.
I will say you've only brought up good things.
Yeah, I've only brought up good things, but my sleep's been kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on kind of a shooting slump. Like nothing like there's not like a bunch of like great things that like I can point out from the week. And then I just feel like right now there's like a huge like just wind of like change going on like all over the place that is just kind of like unsettling,
it's not like a fun change. There's
no
weird and eerie about it.
Like shout out Frosty at work. She's going back to England, and one of my friends is not gonna come back for a long time. That's really sad. Just like a lot of personal things, like people are like moving away that I'm friends with that are sad. Like
One of my friends just moved away.
yeah, I don't know. Like there's just like a lot of like weird like revelations that I don't even want to like get into, but like I've been finding out this week. I'm just like, I want like a just normal week. And so I don't know. The Suns have only played once. It was like this really weird.
That's a real thing that's happening.
Bro, Patrick was like, they're getting ready for their like company dinner the other night, and Patrick is like grinding Suns calves.
I needed to mainline it because it was the only game I was gonna get until today.
Oh, I know why I'm on a shooting slump. But let me finish.
No, that's pretty much all I have to say is like and you know what? I think there's this like impending doom of the Suns Celtics game that's happening today that I've been like quietly marching towards all week. So maybe that's it as well. But James, I'm dying to know.
Your super Suns fandom has ready to remember what my shooting slump was, and it's that my New York Giants fucking suck.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so the Giants lose superstar running back Saquon Barkley. We lose our best safety, Xavier McKinney. We make a great trade for a defensive end, and we signed an offensive lineman. So another offseason where the Giants won the offseason with shrewd trades, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, it makes sense on paper. Running backs aren't as valuable as defensive ends. You know, offensive linemen are more valuable than safeties. Guess what? We're on like year 6 of the Giants, quote, winning the offseason and fucking sucking the following season. I'm tired of winning the offseason.
When I saw that...
I don't understand how we win the offseason when we lose Saquon Barkley. That's a loss. That is a huge loss.
When I saw that Saquon went to the Eagles, I immediately texted James for a proof of life because I was worried. I knew it would come to this.
Dude, I'm so grateful to be a Giants fan because I watched them win 2 Super Bowls, but we have sucked. So we've made the playoffs 2 times since 2012. Like when they show those graphics of like American sports franchises with the fewest wins in the last like 10 years, like the Giants have like the 5th lowest winning percentage across like NFL, MLB, NBA. Like we really suck.
Yeah, I can't.
Or like when we
tell
traded
you
Odell
don't.
Beckham, it was like we drafted this guy named Dexter Lawrence, who is legitimately one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. Dude's really, really good. But like, again, we, quote, won the trade, but like, okay, man, like I saw Odell almost win Super Bowl MVP like 2 years later. Like, I don't really feel like we won anything. In fact, I've only watched us lose. And this is what this Giants offseason feels like. It's like, okay, yeah, on paper, we made shrewd moves, but like, we're losers and we lose. It's what we do. We are losers. I'm a loser. And we're going to lose more.
People are gonna clip this.
Go ahead.
At least it's got to make you feel good that the Cowboys have like done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but they're already way better than us.
Yeah.
They're gonna beat us twice.
I'm just trying to make you feel better, buddy.
I don't feel good about the Giants, man.
I feel like they'll probably still be better than the Cardinals at the bare minimum.
Possibly.
Yeah, they've been jockeying back and forth.
Yeah,
the Cardinals
they do their thing.
and the Giants exist on the same plane.
Man, I would kill for Kyler Murray to be our quarterback.
Yeah,
He's a lot better than us.
he's pretty dope.
He's pretty good.
He's the one thing that keeps me coming back.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is Hot Streak Shooting Slump for the week. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Peace.